Hi all. Many of you have commented that you've started playing the French defence as a result of my live commentary videos. I used to play the Sicilian Defense, but I think the Sicilian in general, you know, as you get older, maybe you're a bit off-put, especially if you get crushed a few times by younger players, because it's very tactical, can have lots of vicious line opening. Now, a really brutal line opening Sicilian game, which cost actually one of the players a lot of money, was recently from the last round of Hastings. So Edouard Romain had a fantastic tournament up to that point. He was leading the event. All he needed was a draw to sort of share first prize. Now he was playing Deep Sengupta, who was 2-5-2-7. Edouard, you know, he'd beaten David Howe in the event. He's 2-6-20. He was playing the black side. And he played the Sicilian Defense. And there's a kind of brutal line opening, which is the theme of this game. And for me, it really does put me off playing the Sicilian Defense, this game. Now, I guess you're going to think it's wonderful, you know, and instructive line opening. There's a piece sacrifice in it as well. It's just got a brutal feel to it, as you'll see. Let's go over the game anyway, because we haven't gone over any Hastings games, and it was a key game for a prize, you know, decider in that last round. So Sengupta played e4. So the Sicilian Defense, Nc3 Nc6, d4, standard move. None of this offbeat stuff, mainline stuff. And I think now we have, you know, the Richter-Elzer kind of system, Bishop g5. So with Bishop g5, actually, there's venom here because, you know, White's already got pressure on the d-file and d6 in particular. The option of playing Bishop f6 at any point is an interesting option. Also having that pin, you know, if e6 or e5 later is played. It's an interesting system, Bishop g5. I think statistically it must be favouring White overall. So e6, okay, seemingly logical move from Black, Scheveningen central pawn structure. White now plays Queen d2. Okay, logical move supporting that bishop on g5. Supporting castling queenside, which should have a rook on d1, exert more pressure on d6. Then you know, later you've maybe got other options as well. But remember that bishop takes f6 option in conjunction with a bishop on e7. If there's a recapture there, it might have to be with this g pawn, because, you know, d6 is on the frontally. So anyway, a6. Now, one other thing which I'm questioning from this game is also, you know, I talk about strategic backfire, and to look at the tactical trump cards. Well, in fact, you can deliberately, you know, play in a way which is like counterintuitive to just get those tactical trump cards and use those to blast the opponent to bits. And that's another thing really this game demonstrates. Tactical trump cards. Forget material, forget positional considerations, go for the king. The king is the one waving the red flag in this game to the bull. So castles, okay. Edouard took on d4, so queen takes d4. I'm sure this is likely to be heavily theoretical, this game so far. Bishop e7, okay. Now f4, Black plays a seemingly logical move now to do something about this bishop, to exert pressure on e4, maybe to use the c file later with rook to c8. Doesn't seem that questionable or controversial to me. b5. The whole thing about playing the Sicilian, though, it's not my cup of tea at the moment, playing the Sicilian. So White now, okay, he plays sort of counterintuitive decisions. He gives up the two bishops, but we've seen time and time and again that being quite a successful strategy. Here it seems White's ramping up the central pressure with this now, this next move. Bishop takes f6. So, okay, bishop f6, queen d6 doesn't look too good, losing that centre pawn. So g takes f6 is played. But here, I don't know if this is theoretical. Really, you know, maybe I should check this out. Or please, you know, tell me if you think it is. It seems to be brutal line opening at work here. White now plays e5, and it seems to leave Black struggling for the course of this game, which wasn't such a long game. Okay. I don't want to engine this game. I know it's the type of game you would sort of engine check at every point. But Black decided to play d5, seemingly safe and cosy move that you might decide to play as Black. And in fact, you know, it's reminiscent of a French defence pawn structure here. Okay, what's the damage that can be done? Surely not that much, you'd think. Well, white has the initiative here. Maybe the initiative counts a lot more than strategic crush sometimes. You just want to grab hold of those tactical trump cards and smash the opponent's king to bits. Okay, so bishop e2, seemingly quiet move, nothing of a storm yet, or is there? Does this have vast implications, later of a rook switching if black dared castle kingside? Well, black's maybe a bit afraid to castle kingside here. Okay, so he plays bishop b7. He's keeping his options open for maybe even, queen c7, castle queenside. You've got the French defense, cozy pawn structure. Nothing can really terribly, happen here. But now we have a move which, basically is exploiting white's, king position is a bit safer here on c1. There isn't a black rook on c8 yet. The black king, is a target and here white plays a move which really does sharpen the position up. And the general rule is, if the opponent's got two bishops, generally you don't really want to open up the position here. But because of the king position, this move seems pretty dangerous. f5. Okay, so it's opening up the position with the black king still in the center. Okay, so f takes, queen takes. And now Edouard tries fighting back, on c3, so bishop f6. Seems logical if there's going to be a rook later to, to put more pressure on c3 maybe. Okay, queen g3. And now another seemingly safe, cozy move from black. What could go wrong with it? Queen b8, get the queens off maybe. Okay, white doesn't want to trade of queens. But on the other hand, there'll be queen f4 check surely if the queen sidesteps. Well, the queen did sidestep, allowing the possibilities of queen f4. I think d5 is falling. If there's a queen f4, king b1, queen f5 just taken and knight takes d5. So it's not so amazing to play queen f4 here. So black, well, that's what I think intuitively. As I say, I'm not going to engine check this game. Black decided the safe option here is to play d4, thinking, white's going to have to maybe move the knight. So in this position, white actually decided, not retreat the knight because black's got things like queen f4 check anyway, and then maybe taking on f5 is fine. So he's had this all plotted out, I guess. That d4 was a potential reply, and he just sacrifices the c3 knight now. He's playing on his trump cards. The king's still in the centre. That's the key consideration. It might be incalculatable here, but there's other tactical trump cards related to that king in the centre to do with this pawn now being so advanced and menacing as well. So Eduardo threw in a check. King b1 now munched the knight. So what could possibly be really that bad about this position? Surely the king can just shuffle to f8. Well, there was a check. Okay, the king decides not to take because rook d7 will be pick out the bishop anyway. So king f8, and now in the midst of all this, just sacrificed the piece, opened up all the lines for the opponent's two bishops. So forget materialism, forget strategic crush, forget ideas that the two bishops are dangerous. White, in the midst of all this, plays this next move, which seems to be a bit unbelievably slow. But the key consideration here is black's actually threatening queen b4. Very dangerous threat on b2. So white actually plays a3. Okay. Now surely with this extra move, maybe black can save himself here, from this attack. Well, one key consideration, maybe rook f1 is going to be dangerous. He wants to keep an eye on the h6 square. He doesn't want the queen coming to h6. So his next move seems cozy and logical, h5. Okay, so this vicious looking rook f1 is played, but still we don't see at this stage what's the big deal with the king being on f8. So queen e5. Okay, by the way, this line is blocked to white's king by that pawn, weathering the storm here. So bishop d3. So we start to see with bishop d3 and unveiling that maybe white's going to use the e file now with another tempo game, and maybe that's going to be potentially dangerous, that e file. It's easier to comment on this game than to play it, but as BlackElo, I'd be worried here because it's just such a tactically sharp position. There's so many things to factor in here, so many threats building up here. This queen's got, you know, this scope. The rooks have got the central scope. You know, the queen's tied down to the bishop at the moment. Looks a bit dangerous intuitively. Queen g5. Okay. Now the queen comes in, hitting the bishop, and also protecting the pawn. And you might not think that last comment is a big deal, protecting the pawn. Well, actually the pawn is kind of dangerous there on f7. Black decided to take on g2, at least defending the bishop indirectly, so just moving it away. But now we see an unveiling of a major threat, an idea. Rook de1. Forget moving the rook on f1. Rook here is really a menacing threat, because if the king ever moves, there'll be f8 queen with check because of that queen on the second rank. So we've got a really concrete dangerous threat here which has to be parried. Black plays bishop e7. And now, okay, what can white do? Surely this isn't that bad. You know, the rook on f1's attacked. You know, how does white increase the pressure? Unfortunately, white's increasing the pressure with tempo again on the poor hapless queen in this game. White plays rook f5. Now, if the queen moves away from g5, of course, queen e7. So the queen has to still support e7. So queen h4. But now rook f e5, and we start to see the true horror of the position here. Black with the two bishops, a piece up, seemingly, you know, relatively safe king on f8, but there's this major issue which has emerged of rook e8 and f8 queening. Seems to make this game kind of a special instructive game for this Victor Rosa system. To me, rook d8, and now another quiet killer move. No rush for rook takes e7 under these circumstances of rook d8. Just sidestep a little, queen c7, renewing the threat of rook e7 or rook e8 if the bishop dared to move. No checks. Look how cosy the white king is with that pawn on c3. Everything cosy as a teapot with a sort of thing round it, you know, warming up the teapot. Cosy for white, but look at the black king with rook takes e7 and rook e8 as major threats. Would you like to play the black side? Would you like to play the Sicilian after this game? Well, Edouard played rook takes d3, and after c takes d3, I don't know why did he play rook takes d3. Well, what else is there to suggest here? You know, the queen's tied down to the bishop. There's the major threat of rook takes e7. This bishop can't really do anything about that major threat. The pawn taking here is useless. King g7, rook e7 just carries on all the threats. It just looks dire. Okay, so rook takes d3 was played, and white just plays c takes d3. Great, there'll be a spite check maybe of c2. White could just take that with the queen. So black here actually decides to resign. For me, it was just a bit of a shocking, you know, collapse for this player, which had such a fantastic tournament, to lose this game. Let's look at it in overview and summary. So Victor Rosa, probably popularity will go up after this game. So queen d2 and just castles queenside with this option of bishop f6. But this new add of twist in this game that white can actually open up loads of lines with a time the e5 and now f5. And even just sack the c3 knight to weather, you know, black's potential counterplay in inverted commas. So the black king's got at, but also this advanced pawn provides a basis for rook e8 being exceptionally dangerous in this game. So if we look at it, whoops. So after queen h3, so just sacking the knight, but now this very advanced pawn is very, very dangerous tactically. So we see a ruthless exploitation of tactical trump cards here, and ruthless gains of tempo on the poor black queen for massive major coordination of these three pieces on that poor e7 square. So rook d8 just sidestepping, queen c7, renewing rook e7 as a threat, desperate exchange sack which doesn't really do much, and now black resigned. It's a horrible final position to be in. You know, king g7, rook e7 just looks absolutely terrible. Okay, maybe that's put you off playing Sicilian. I'm sorry, but comments or questions on YouTube. Okay, thanks very much.